So guys, welcome to the day 2 session. So as part of the today's session, I'm going to discuss with you on our main agenda is three concepts today. It's one second. Yeah. SDLC, Software Development Life Cycle. And the second concept that we are going to discuss is the project methodologies. And the third concept we are going to discuss as the types of sandbox. If you remember, in yesterday's concept, we discussed what is Salesforce, and then mainly we discussed about the Salesforce is the technology that we use to develop large scale business to the small scale business. That means small projects to large projects. So the main use of the Salesforce we are using is we are developing the projects. So, first of all, before learning about how to develop your project and all, we should strongly aware of these terminologies because any project that we would like to develop, first we should like to know software development life cycle. So, what is the software development life cycle? And then what are the different methodologies that we have to develop a software. Then types of sandboxes is completely related to the Salesforce guys. First two points are related to the all technologies, not only Salesforce. Any technology you take. So these two concepts are the basic concepts. I think most of you might have aware of this, like SDLC, one of the important 16 marks question when I was studying. I hope same thing for now also. Okay. So let's start with our first concept, software development life cycle. So software development life cycle is not nothing but the developing a project, guys. So any project, if we want to develop, the basic steps that we have to follow is the analysis. So analysis is nothing but analyzing the requirements. And the second thing is design. Design in the design phase, what we will do is we will just we will just give you a rough idea. Our paper presentations, our PowerPoint presentations, saying that okay, this is how we are going to design it. Okay, and the third thing is implementation. Fourth thing is testing. Fifth thing is maintenance. Okay, all these are the deployment and maintenance, guys. The fifth thing is deployment and maintenance. These are the basic steps that involve in SDLC, Software Development Life Cycle. Okay, so whether it is here you are seeing two keywords, agile and waterfall model. Okay, but whatever it is, the concepts are basically the same: analysis, design, implementation, testing, maintenance. But in agile, the terminology is a little bit different. Analysis, they are just calling it as a planning. Okay, that is nothing but the analysis. Even in the analysis, what we will do? We will just get the requirement and analyze it. Planning is also same thing. We will get the requirements and analyze it. Okay, and the second, design is design. And the third, what you can see in the arrow mark, in the agile technology, you will be seeing develop. In the waterfall, you will be seeing implementation. But both terminology is different, but both means same. We are doing our development. Okay. After that, the next step is testing. It's testing. And the next step is maintenance and deploy. Here also it's just deploy. Deploy and maintenance. Deployment in the sense of it's a package comes up with maintenance. Okay. Deploy is something like that. We are launching our project to the live users. So in case if they face any issues, we have to provide the maintenance. So once we are done with the deployment, always maintenance will come as part of package. And then again, there is an extra phase in agile methodology, review. Okay. So I'll explain about that later. So basically, SDLC, Software Development Life Cycle, will contain basic phases of 5 phases, guys. Analysis, you can call it as a planning also. and then design, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. Okay. So these 5 stages, handling any requirement in these 5 stages, we call it as a complete project. Once we are done with these 5 stages of anything, we will tell, okay, we are done with our project. Okay. Let's take an example, guys. Let's take our capital. Okay. So, as part of our capital, right, what they did initially, first they analyzed, right, which place is good for capital and which have many resources and which is center to all the districts which are present in that particular state. Like that, they analyzed it. Before that, they have some requirements also. First of all, they have set of requirements like it should be in center and it should be somehow near to the already developed places. Like that, at the time of choosing our capital, they have their own requirements and it should have some future, future growth also should be easier in that place. Like that, they have their own requirements, and depending on the requirements, they have chosen a place of capital, right? So they have this some designs, some picture on their minds. Then what is the next phase they did? They have started designing, right? Okay, which place is what? Like as we all know, some area is going to be financial city, and some area is going to be educational city, and some area is going to be judicial city. Like that, they have designed, right? Nothing was built there, but it was designed. So such kind of, that is the second page of any project. So same thing happens in Salesforce also. In internally, every real time projects, it's the same thing. Whatever we do in our day to day life, the same things we do in our company also as a part of work. The clients are going to change. That's it. Again, whatever the capital design, that is also one of the project given to the companies, designing companies. The same way, there will be many business users. They will give projects to their respective consultancies or companies. And inside that company, we do the project management, right? That project management is nothing but it's not a rocket science, guys. Whatever we are seeing and we are observing in our day to day life, the same things we do internally in the software companies also. Some client will come to us, they will give us the requirements, and we will just analyze the requirements, what is they are asking. Then we will identify what is the best tool to provide the requirements. Then we will design it. Okay, it's a paper presentations or like PPTs. Most of nowadays, nothing is paper presentations, guys. So we will have the some ER diagrams and PPTs we will design. So that is the design phase. Once the design is ready, what we will do is we will go to the client's back, and we will every project have architects, leads, and developers. That is the common structure, guys. Architect is the main person, basically, who will be having more expensive while handling, not expensive, it's experience while handling the projects. They will be in the architect position. They will have around minimum 8 to 9 years of experience in that particular technology. Okay. So they know each and everything which is going on that particular arg. Arg, I can say, when I use the arg keyword, it is something like that. There is a place where you are doing the development. Okay, let us assume like that. And architect is the one who knows A to Z about that particular arg, who is the users and what are the different users, different types of users they use that applications, and what are the different applications which are handling by that particular project, I can say. A project is nothing but a simple application, guys. It might involves in multiple applications also. Okay, so architect have a very good knowledge on that particular project, I can say project, and in other terms, I can say client. For example, I have a client and whose name is like, hmm, yeah, I can say I have a client whose name is some IT services. It's not IT services, I can say Honda showroom. Like Honda is my client. So I'll not develop a simple application that will just sell their products. Okay. I'll be having some other applications also. Maybe in the front end applications that they will present all their different types of vehicles. That is the one of the application. Okay, that is completely front end applications. Like it's like using front end tools like HTML, JavaScript, and jQuery. They will design the web pages. That is one project. That is completely a front end project. Okay, there will be some back end applications like if somebody is, yesterday we discussed, right? Somebody is showing interest on marketing, sales, service. These are like back end applications. Like we have different applications, and architect is the one who has all the knowledge on all the applications which is running for that particular client. So basically, they will provide the design. At the time of providing the design, we have to make sure that always our design should be reusable. It's not something like that. If you design something and it is only used in only one place, then never we will call it as a best design, guys. So we have to think like a reusability, and most of the times it is out of your box. Basically architects will take care of that, but it's always better to give your suggestions to understand the design. Basically, coming to the admin and development role, your main part is on implementation part. You are not going to involve in analysis much, you are not going to involve design in much, as well as testing, as well as even deployments also you are not going to involve. Just for 3 to 4 years experience people basically will not involve in these four steps. It's not 0%, but you are not main responsible for that task. But implementation is something like that. You are the responsible for that. So, but never think like that. Okay, somebody will take care of analysis and they will design it and they'll come to me and they'll explain me the requirements saying that, okay, you have to do this, you have to write this code, you have to do this. Don't expect like that. Be part of analysis, be part of design. It might be a minor part, but should be part of that. Then be part of implementations. Okay. So I think I'm going out of it. So my main motto of this is, guys, the project implementation is mainly involved in these 5 phases, and any project can implement in a two ways, agile versus waterfall. In case of small projects, guys, like developing a web page and using that they can register, that's it. Okay, I just need to develop a front end page which contains first name, last name, mobile number, and some of their security related information. Then I just need to store that information into the database. Okay, if that is my requirement, that is the case, I'll not go with the agile ones because the requirements are very small and it's a straightforward. Then waterfall model. But there are some projects requirements in agile also, it's a very simple, guys. So they will tell like, I want to design a car. That is the requirement. Okay. They just come to you and initially they'll tell you, I want to design a car. Okay. And immediately you will ask, what type of engines do you want to utilize? Then the business will tell you, don't know. I don't have any idea. You can tell me what are the different engines are available and which is more powerful, like that. Their requirement is high level requirement is very simple. They want to design a car, not only design, they want to launch a car product. Okay, for that they don't have any clear requirements, like what type of engine they want to use, what type of colors they want to launch as part of their cars, and it has so many things like tires, which brand tires they want to use. Nothing, they don't have any initial plan up front. That is the case. What we will do is, first we will take the requirements. So we will plan this step by step. So we are going to manufacturing a car. So the first step of manufacturing a car is preparing the engines, right? So we will start with the design, engine design. That bonnet design we are going to start. Okay, we are going to use, that is the time we will analyze and design. First, as part of the planning itself, we will analyze what is the different engines that we can make, or different types of electricals will be there, right? Which is the best one, which will give you more power or more fuel charges, like that. And then we will just design the engine part alone. That's it. We will not design any other parts. Okay. Then we will develop that engine part, like implement the things, and then we will test alone, that engine part alone. We are not testing the complete car, guys. We are just testing whatever the things we have developed is working fine. Then we just keep. We are deploying it. We are just deploying it. We are not announcing it to the end users because that is not ready. Then again, come to review. Then again, what is the next step? Now we need to develop our tire structure, okay, or our body, car body structure. Now we have to review. And what colors we need to launch. Again, we will take another piece of work. Then again, we will plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review. Okay, like that, we will do a work into bits of pieces. And once everything is ready, we are going to launch it. Okay, that is going to be that kind of work we are doing. We call it as an agile methodology. Here, this process, designing, developing, testing, deploying, reviewing, this process is continuously happening in a looping process. Okay, it's not only single time, it happens in a loop process. Basically, for all the large scale projects, we use this agile methodology. So if you go to the companies, right, in your future also, you will be seeing almost all the projects in the agile only, because we will not have very small projects, guys, like what I told you, a simple login form. Those are something like that just for the learning purpose. But in our real time projects, it's always a big projects we will be having. So we always use the agile methodologies. Most of our projects which are running in our current industry is agile projects. Okay. Then when we are going to use the waterfall projects is, it's around 15 to 20 years back we used the waterfall method only. We didn't have that agile methodology. But later on they came up with this agile word. No, we don't do the waterfall model like this, because if we go with the waterfall model, what was happening is clients expects a car, but finally we are also delivering a car, but not the expected model. And most of the times client might not be happy. If he is not happy, then again it's come to a new way. Okay. Instead, I mean, with that is something like that, client satisfaction factor is always less in waterfall model. But client satisfaction factor is always more in agile model, because with part of work only we are just showing them whether it is good or not. Are you satisfied or not? If they have any corrections, we can easily correct it, because it's not completely done right, it's a part. So corrections are very easy. That's the reason agile methodology is the one which is most used. 90% of the projects in a company, they use agile methodology only. And there are a lot of tools that came to handle these agile technologies, guys. Like you might have heard so many tools like project management tools. Jira is one of the project management tool, and um, Rally is one of other project management tools, and SAP ticketing system. We have SAP ticketing system. That is also one of the project management tool. So what they do is project management tools is something like that. They'll just capture the requirements and they store all our design documents and they store all our communications which was happened through the clients and the company and developers. So each and every communication which we are discussed with the business, everything will get recorded, guys. So that recorded will happen step by step, phase by phase. Such kind of things we call it as agile. And to manage these projects in this way, we use different tools. Jira, Azure DevOps is the one. You might have heard the Azure DevOps, right? That is also one of the tool for the project management. Jira is the one. Rally is the one. Like that, we have so many things, and Jira and Azure DevOps are the most used ones for the project development. Okay. So is it clear? Agile versus waterfalls model? Okay. Now let me go to the. So we learned about the project management, different phases of life cycle, and then we learned about the what are the different methodologies that we have and what is the most used ones. Now we will come to our Salesforce. Okay. Coming to our Salesforce, then obviously, right? Yeah, but we know how to develop a project and what are the different phases of project. But we should know how we will develop the project in Salesforce, right? Because those two things, whatever we discussed, are the common for all the technologies. But coming to the Salesforce, how do we do the things? Okay, you will be seeing full copy, partial copy, developer, pro, and developer. These are the four Salesforce keywords that we have to remember, guys. Because whenever we are developing the project, right? Let me just go back. So, launching the project, once we are done with all our development, like either phase by phase, we are going to launch our things. That means our end users are going to use. For example, I have a project which is going to be, I divided to deliver this project into 9 pages. Let us assume it's not a car, guys. Okay. Let us assume I'm going to develop a website. Okay. That website is going to be used by the marketing team, sales team, finance team, and service team. Okay, so as part of the my first launch, I am going to make that website ready for the marketing team. Okay, my second launch, I am going to do it available for the both marketing and sales. As part of the third launch, I am going to make it as available for marketing, sales, service. And fourth launch, marketing, sales, service, and finance. So my complete project I'm going to deliver into 4 phases. Okay. So when so in my first phase of application, I- I'm developing something and then testing something and then deploying review. On my second phase of application, already there should be one arc that end users are going to use. So marketing team is going to use, right? That should be a separate place. And again, I should have a separate place to test my application. Testers. Okay. And then developers should have a separate phase to develop their requirements. Okay. So we have three different places. One is for end users. We call it as a live environments, production environments, live environments. Okay. That is nothing but the production environment. If anything is breaking in the production environment, then all our customers will get complete complaint. For example, if we take our bank websites, ICICI, HDFC, or any bank website, if you take whatever the mobile applications that we are using, right? It's all productions because we are using directly. Okay. But every monthly or let us assume it's a monthly frequency. Okay, you will be getting a notification saying that there is a upgrade happened for this particular version. Please upgrade it to the latest version. What is that latest version? So they are doing, whenever we are using the applications, they are doing some more improvements for that particular application on their development arcs. So any project, if you want to start, guys, basically you should have three places. The main one is the development environment, testing environment, and production environment. Okay. Salesforce is also not exemptable for that. It is also the same thing. Salesforce also, we are going to have the development environment, testing environment, and production environment. Okay. So these are the ones we call it as a developer pro, developer, partial copy. These are the three things that we use for the development environment. Okay. Then you can ask, why do we need these three types of things for development? Can't we have only one type of thing? Okay. Yes, most of the companies, we do the development in partial copies, guys. So partial copy is something like that. So first of all, remember these names: full copy, partial copy, developer pro, and developer. These four we call it as a types of sandboxes. So types of sandboxes. Sandbox is nothing but a development environment. Like it's an environment, Salesforce environment, where we can where users can access the applications and they can do their development, or they can do their testing, or they can use their end products. Okay. Wherever you do the development, you call it as a development sandbox. Wherever you do the testing, we call it as a testing sandbox. Wherever end users uses, we call it as a production sandboxes. So sandbox is nothing but the environment, Salesforce environment. So in Salesforce terminology, they're just calling the sandbox. That is nothing but one of the environment where we can execute our projects. Okay. Then immediately in the interview, they will ask you, what are the different types of sandboxes that you have? Okay. Then you have to say each project, guys, will have full copy sandbox, partial copy sandbox, developer pro sandbox, and developer sandboxes. Okay. Full copy sandbox. Full copy sandbox is something like that. It's exactly replica of production. Okay. On data storage, the main difference between these sandboxes are the refresh interval timings and the data storage. Okay. So Salesforce, right? It's a priced one. It's not the free version. Okay. So depending on the price you pay, you will get these type of sandboxes. For example, if you are paying higher amount like unlimited version, we have different versions, guys, that I can tell you in future classes. But you just remember we have unlimited, enterprise, professional, Okay, and standard versions. Standard is something like that we don't have any advantages, and professional also we will not get full copy sandbox with professional. We will get only partial copy sandbox. Okay, will not get full copy sandbox, and both unlimited and enterprise. So it's something like that. Don't get confused with four keyword, guys. Unlimited, enterprise, professional. This is something like that. Let's consider our mobile recharge plans. Okay. If you plan 249, then you will get unlimited data. Not for 249, they'll not give unlimited, right? 249, you will get 1 GB data. Okay. And then unlimited calls. In case of 349, you will get unlimited data and unlimited calls, right? like like 20 days, 15 days duration will also change, right? Depending on the plan that you have opted, the duration is going to get changed. The same way, Salesforce also has its own plans that they call it as a unlimited, enterprise, professional. Just remember these three keywords: unlimited, enterprise, professional. Okay, unlimited is the very expensive one, and it has more features. So, in case if the business is large scale business, they always go with the unlimited. In case of medium business, they will go with the professional. In case of small business, they will go with the sorry guys. In case of large scale business, they will go with the unlimited. In case of medium, they will go with the enterprise. In case of small scale business, they go with the professional. Okay. And then in case of unlimited, you will be getting all these types of sandboxes, and you can use left and right. You will be getting two full copy sandboxes and one partial copy sandbox, and five developer pro and 100 developer sandboxes. These numbers I can tell you when I am explaining about the like unlimited enterprise and all, guys. Right now you can just right now the major question that they will ask in interviews is, what are the different sandboxes that you have worked, and what is the difference between each sandbox? So that is the main question that I would like to cover today. Okay, then the different sandboxes that we have is full copy, partial copy, developer pro, and developer. Coming to the full copy sandbox, guys, data storage. Whatever is your production storage, for example, your production storage is 100 TB, then your full copy sandbox will get 100 TB. That means whatever the records you have in production, the same number of records it will get have a full copy also. That's the reason it's always says same as production. Like whatever in your production, if you have 10 lakhs records, the same records you will see in the full copy sandboxes. Majorly, we use these full copy sandboxes for the UAT testing, user acceptance testing. Before deploying anything to production, first we will check this thing in the full copy sandbox, saying that with this large amount of data also, each our functionality is working well or not. This is confirmation saying that okay, the functionality is working well. If anything is working well in full copy sandboxes, there is a 99% chance that will not fail in production. Okay. Then the partial copy sandbox. Partial copy sandbox has the limited storage, 5 GB storage. In your production, if it has 10 lakhs records, okay, let us assume your 10 lakhs records will have 20 GB memory is occupying for your data. Okay. Whenever your partial copy sandbox, it will not have all the 20 GB data. Okay. It will get only 5 GB data. So here what we are doing is partial copy sandboxes are mainly used by the developers, guys, because we will not do any testing. A developer will never and ever do the testing by loading 100 records, by loading 10,000 records, by loading 20,000 records. They'll just implement the functionality. whatever we want, and we can hardly create 4 to 5 records to test that functionality. We will not do load testing, guys. Load testing is nothing but the by loading bulk number of records, eh, we will not do such kind of testing. That is the responsibility of the testers that they'll do. Okay. So partial copy sandbox has a storage limitation, and that's the reason mainly partial copy sandbox is used by the developers. Okay, I'll later on discuss about the refresh intervals. Okay, and the developer pro sandbox. Developer pro sandbox and the developer sandbox, it's almost same. The only difference is data storage. It's data storage. In developer pro sandbox, you will have a little bit more data, and developer sandbox, you will be having less data. I mean, 200 MB is something like that. You will not have not even 4 or 5 records for each table. Okay. And most of the projects, most of the times, we will not use these ones. But these ones we generally use. We don't want to affect other developers, but I want to try something on my own. Okay. It's our own purpose because these two are kind of free. You will get so many sandboxes you can. So if you ask your manager, they can provide you one sandbox for you and do whatever you want. Okay. This is for own learning and own practice purposes we use in our projects. Okay. So mainly in our projects, we use full copy and partial copy. Yes, we use developer sandboxes, but that is our own practices and own like for example, if I want to analysis, or if I want to try something new things which is coming, latest updates which is coming on Salesforce, I want to try, because this is individual sandbox which will get allocated for you. Nobody is going to affect if you do something. But partial copy sandbox and full copy sandbox is multiple people work on the same place. So if you do something, it might affect others also, the people who are in the same, working on the same place. That's the reason we'll not use. But in the projects, we will use this, and we have to make sure that whatever the changes we are doing, it should not affect the others, and there are tools to handle that. So that tools we will discuss in later classes. So mainly you have to remember this image, guys. In today's class, coming to the Salesforce point of view, this is the important thing you need to remember. And refresh interval is the one for full copy sandbox 29 days, 5 days, 1 day, and 1 day. So this refresh interval is nothing but getting the updates from production live environment to sandboxes. Okay, for example, I have developed ICICI application. Okay. So mobile application. I have deployed to that mobile application today. Okay. So my full copy sandbox will contain the records or information which are deployed before I deploy the application to the production, right? Once the application is deployed to production, end users are going to use that one, and they are going to input something, right? Like they might have do the mobile registrations, and then they might have download the statements. They might have sent the money. Okay. All these transactions, again, I need to send back to the full copy sandbox. Why? Because if anything is failing in production, I can't directly go and do some changes in the production, right? None of the applications will allow you go and do the changes in production. So if something is failing, you should debug that issue. And full copy sandbox is the place to do debug that issue. That's the reason we always have to maintain a sync between full copy and the production. Okay. So that means you should not daily do the sync. There will be a lot of data, and which we are using the cloud, right? That's the reason If you are doing like that, your performance is going to impact. Because of that, there is a time limit. Okay, you have to wait for 29 days to make that sync. Okay, so let it happen in the production instance. Whatever happens for the 30 days, you can go and let it happen. But after 29 days, just get all the data to the full copy sandbox so that it will be helpful. If anything is fails in production, you also have the same data, right? So at least you can replicate the issue and then you can fix it, then again deploy it. And partial copy sandboxes are something like that. 5 days. Because we are not going to copy all the data. We are just going to copy 5 GB of data. So basically, for each 5 days, you can get the production things. So basically, guys, in case of any code changes, this have very less number of records. Real-time information is very less, but metadata is in the sense of configuration things that we will get. Okay. And developer pro and developer, we can do daily. So in your production, let us assume you have added some new object. Okay, object in the sense I can say new table. You have added directly in the production. Okay. Then it's something like that. You can't do anything in the production, guys. Salesforce is nothing like that. You can do few things in the production directly. It's creating some new tables. All those things you can do in the production. So those tables, if you want to get back to your development tasks, refresh is the only mechanism. There is a button, refresh button. Whenever you click on the button, the tables, new tables which you created in your production will get copied back to your full copy or partial copy or developer sandboxes. Okay. So, but that button will get enabled with this duration. In case of full copy, if you done the refresh from the production, refresh button will not get enabled till it will complete the 29 days. For partial copy, it will wait for 5 days and after that only you can enable it. For developer and developer pro, it's always 1 day. Okay. They'll simply ask you guys types of sandboxes and what is the main difference between the sandboxes. Template support is the thing. Like data storage, I think hope refresh intervals are clear. Data storage is nothing but the records. Okay, that is records in the sense of information. And file storage is when we are storing something, we will attach some images or some Excel files or anything, Word documents we will attach, right? Those are nothing but the file storage. And template support. The last thing is the template support. Template support is something like that. You can define at the time of doing the refresh, I want to refresh only particular things. I don't want to copy all the things. Okay. I want to copy only particular things. Okay. That thing you can configure. That is nothing but the template support that is available in full copy and that is available in partial copy. In developer and developer pro, you don't have that thing. It will just do all the things. Okay. Um, yeah. Thank you guys. That is for today's video. Thank you.